another episode of Mental Health Forum. Every time, whenever we try to talk or we try to record some episode for Mental Health Forum, me and my co-host Kim Kulin, she is an executive director of CCHR. We try to bring some new topic which is related to, of course, mental health. On top of it, a healthy body as well. And every time we try to bring some person who can talk about some new issues related to mental health. How can we secure our mental health, and plus on top of it, as a person, how you maintain your health other than medicines and all that. And for this, our today's guest is really a person who got expertise in different fields. And today our topic is also very exciting, and that's alternative treatment to mental health. So to our today's guest, let's welcome my today's guest. His name is John Katsikas. And John has a large modern compounding facility with separate labs for hormonal, pediatric and skin preparations. They produce cosmeceuticals, several dermatologists, and can advise on all aspects of compounding and hormonal prescribing. He is also a lecturer in natural therapy, had many years of experience in naturopathy. He also runs a naturopathic clinic specializing in providing hormonal balancing advice, chronic disease management, and children's disorder. So let's welcome our today's guest, John Katsikas.
Hi there.
Hi,
Hello,
John.
everyone.
Welcome to A1 TV.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And before we start our interview, I would like to welcome my co-host, Kim Collins. She is an executive director of CCHR.
Hello, Kim.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi, Sana.
Hi, Kim.
Great to do another show with you. I think we've done 8 now, Sana. This would be
Yes.
like our 8th. So
Yes.
it's very exciting because we're really getting the message out there to people. And having John on tonight is really wonderful because he's very knowledgeable. So I'm really excited about tonight's show.
Yeah. Even I'm also very excited about the show because we are going to discuss some really very, very important issues. And John, my very first question is just give us a brief introduction about yourself, even though I introduce you. But because, you got so many expertise, I just want if you can briefly explain a little bit about yourself.
Certainly, Zana, of course. So I'm very old. I'm 72 years of age. So I've been a pharmacist and a naturopath for a very, very, very long time. For the last maybe 25, 30 years or so, we have been running a compounding pharmacy. And we have a pharmacy here in Paran where we have 3 laboratories. One laboratory that does the hormonal preparations, one laboratory that does the children's preparations so that they don't get contaminated. There's no possibility of contamination. And one laboratory where we do the nutritional and cosmeceutical preparations. What we have found in the last maybe, I think, 8 years or so, that many doctors have become aware of the role of balancing the hormones for making people feel good about themselves, the joie de vivre, making men feel more alive, and instead of sitting and reading the newspaper while their grandchildren play soccer on the field, they actually get down there and play. And the ladies go out and they play tennis and enjoy life, etc., instead of just staying home and feeling sorry for themselves. And so what's been happening is we have found that people who have had their hormones balanced by professional doctors who know what they're doing, and there are many of these doctors around these days, have a happier life in general. And so that's how my interest in nutrition and its effect on hormones and the effect of hormones on the mood and the mental attitude, etc. We go to a lot of webinars and conferences, both here and overseas. So it's a very, very exciting field to know that there is an alternative. Now, as we will see later on, the psychiatric drugs do help some people who must have them, and some people who have to have them and are well balanced on them. We are saying always listen to your doctor's advice. We are not here to replace the doctors. We are simply here tonight to let the people know that there may perhaps be a different way of looking at things, which with the doctor's advice, we can all work together as a team to make the patients happier and more well balanced, especially with what's going on around us these days. My God, the suicide rate. Have you heard what it is these days? Oh my God. Anyway, so that's where we started and that's where we are.
Thanks, John, for your introduction. That's really good to know. And when you said hormonal imbalancing and all that, we do know, when there is some hormonal disbalance or hormonal change in a body, or in particular in a woman's body, then it does have an effect. But because, people from our background, or sometimes, in general, people, they don't know about, there are some sort of hormonal therapy. So if you can explain a bit what this therapy is all about.
Of course. This is becoming more and more known in the marketplace. And what happens is, in the old days, we used to have pharmaceutical intervention. And so ladies would have hormonal tablets and hormonal patches and so on without any idea where their hormonal levels are and without any idea what happens after they start taking all these hormonal preparations. Yeah. However, holistic doctors these days, what they do is they take a full test of all the hormones that run in our bodies, both for men and for women. And based on these results, very, very accurately, they administer prescriptions for what we call bioidentical hormones. Now, bioidentical hormones are hormones which are identical to our own testosterone, progesterone, estrogen 1, estrogen 2, estrogen 3, and so on, cortisol, thyroid, DHEA, etc. So these hormones are carefully balanced in order to bring the level of hormones in the body to a natural level. Because they are natural, because they are the ones that God put in us in the first place, depending on how you look at things, or we evolved with these hormones in our body, if you prefer. And because these are identical, there is no side effects, except if the doctors prescribe too much or too little, of course. But otherwise, it's the natural hormone that runs in your body. A perfect example of this is what we call postpartum depression, which is a very unfortunate disease when mothers ought to be the happiest in their lives because they've just had a beautiful little baby. Sometimes they're very, very sad. And you can imagine why. We call progesterone the happy hormone. And during pregnancy, progesterone is way up high, 300 times the normal level of progesterone. Progesterone is one of those amazingly safe hormones. You can buy progesterone creams all over the world without a prescription, but you do need a prescription here. So a pregnant lady has very, very high levels of progesterone, and boom, right on delivery, the progesterone levels fall within a day or so to normal levels. And the change sometimes makes ladies feel very, very sad, which is, anyway, it's a perfect example of this. And sometimes it is so serious that they do need drugs. They do need pharmaceutical drugs. But we are here to say that maybe discuss with your doctor and see whether there is a chance that a natural hormonal replacement may do the trick.
Thanks, John.
Great.
And
Yeah,
It's really good. Yes, Kim?
yeah. Yeah, John, I wanted to ask you a question because I know that you're a staunch advocate of human rights. And I wanted to ask you if you had in your practice come across men or women who've come to you with already pre-existing mental problems and that they'd already been diagnosed like with a mental condition like bipolar or kids with ADHD or depression or any other sort of related disorders and through your naturopathy and hormonal treatments, have you been able to help these people just by doing that treatment? And I was wondering also, John, maybe you could give us a couple of examples of how you've done that. I'm especially interested in kids because that's my passion as a grandparent and an ex-teacher. So, what you've had children obviously come or parents bring their children to you. What have you done to help them, and how has that resulted?
That's an excellent question, Kim. Thank you. It's an excellent question. And you have to understand that we completely and always abide by the doctor's decisions. And so when the doctors give something to a patient, we are not the ones to say, oh my God, the doctor gave you blue pills, you should have red pills. Of course, we never, ever, ever do this. So what happens is we are in the business of providing information. So when appropriate, we show the patients that there is some information about which may be useful to discuss with their doctor to find out if it's applicable in their case. And just like you said, in many, many occasions, we were able to find that when the doctor looked further, they found imbalances in the amino acids, imbalances in the neurotransmitters, imbalances in the hormones, majorly the hormones, because we all know since the age of, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, 16, we all know that um, changes in hormonal levels over the month affect people's mood. And we know that in uh, menopause, some ladies can feel mental symptoms, etc. Now, there is no denying that this is all due to hormonal imbalances. There is, for example, a website that I came across today called the Anxiety Disorder, Anxiety Disorders Association of Victoria. It's called ADAVIC. And it says here hormone imbalances affect many people in the form of common disorders. Symptoms which may be experienced include anxiety, tiredness, irritability, and depression. These all depend on individual circumstances. For example, an overactive thyroid or too much cortisol can contribute to increased stress and anxiety. A lack of serotonin may also influence anxiety and depression, which is why drugs commonly prescribed as treatments for anxiety and depression aim to improve the flow of serotonin. Our laboratories, our pathology laboratories, have come a long way these days, and they can map out the exact levels of all the hormones and especially the hormone metabolites, because some of the hormonal metabolites are quite dangerous when they're not in the proper balance. And so what happens is the doctors have now got the ability to look at a proper map of a person's hormones and be able to choose a natural alternative if they want. We are not allowed to give hormones. You understand that? We basically
Right.
do what the doctors say. But what often happens is doctors send people to us and we do the test, and it's quite an involved test, and it's a very simple test to do for the patient. And then we prepare a report with which they go back to the doctor. The doctor has a chance to discuss it with us if he wishes, and we are able to advise as to how to balance the hormones. We never, however, recommend that people get off their prescribed medications. I mean, this is very, very serious, very serious. If we look at what depression really means, yeah, a clinical depression means that at least 5 of the 9 accepted symptoms of depression are present for 2 weeks every day. So we've got depressed mood, the reduced level of interest or pleasure in activities, a considerable loss or gain of weight or appetite, insomnia or excessive sleeping, fatigue or diminished energy, thoughts of worthlessness, reduced ability to think and concentrate. People get confused. And the most serious of all, is frequent thoughts of suicide or death. So we are talking about serious stuff here that we never, ever, ever tell people, get off your medications because they're not good for you. Oh my God, that would be criminal.
Absolutely.
But we do help
and
them understand there are other ways.
Absolutely,
Sorry,
John,
Kim?
because we have absolutely, totally agree with you there, because CCHR, we have a similar policy. We tell people that if you're on medications, never, ever, ever just go off your medications, because the effects of going off them can be as more dramatic than the effects of not being on them at all. However, what we do is we recommend that people get a full underlying medical check, and going to someone like yourself and working with the doctor to find out what it is that's underlying that condition, because there's been a lot of research done that which you would know about, John, is that a lot of the mental conditions, there are underlying medical conditions. I understand your position that you can't advocate specific things, and I very much appreciate that your briefing on that was really great. I think nowadays what's happening with people, John, is with people being stuck inside, and in this lockdown that we have in Victoria with the COVID-19 as well, is that, as Sana and I have discussed this quite a few times with various people, is that there are more people who are experiencing depressive sort of episodes, but they need to realise as well that a lot of these are normal, because it's not a normal situation not being able to go out and, as you said before, go and play football with your grandkids or go for a walk to the park. So there needs to be that line drawn between, what's a major depressive incident that a person's dealing with and something that's happening as a result of, being in this incredibly unusual, weird situation that we've been put into. Sana, you had another question that you wanted to ask John about metabolism.
Yes, and that is another thing which is quite
I just
new
lost.
when I go through, John's profile, then I find, and that is nutritional and metabolical treatment. So, what is this, John? How can you treat your metabolism and all that?
Excellent question. Excellent. And in many of the conferences and symposia that we go, again, both here and overseas, we find that maybe as much as 80% of the 200 or 300 people that are present are actually doctors who are looking to learn about the metabolic treatment of disease, all sorts of disease. We are concentrating on depression and mental disease here, but all sorts of disease. And we have here some articles from the National Institute of Health, and it says, for example, understanding nutrition, depression, and mental illness. It goes on to say, few people are aware of the connection between nutrition and depression, while they easily understand the connection between nutritional deficiencies and physical illness. Depression is more typically thought of as a strictly biochemical-based or emotionally rooted. On the contrary, it says here, nutrition can play a key role, and therefore it is something that we are beginning to understand. And if I look at some of these articles, this here is again from the National Institute of Health, and it talks about anxiety and the famous MTHFR. We'll talk about MTHFR in a moment. This is a genetic mutation of one of the genes that has to do with methylation in the body, methylation being the way that the body removes toxins from the body and how the body puts vitamins, vitamin B and so on, and folic acid, how it converts them to the active form. And if you have, well, we might as well talk now. If you have that mutation in the body, and they say that 40% of us 40% of us have this mutation to some degree. And of those 40%, 10 to 12% have the mutation in what they call both genes, and it's a lot more serious. That means they're not at all capable of using these nutrients like vitamin B6, vitamin B5, vitamin B2, folic acid especially, and so on. This is a very, very simple test. It's not a very expensive test. It's a very simple test. It's not a very well understood condition in general, but it's been around, well, it's been around forever, but it's been recognized more and more and more over the last 5 years. And so what happens is you have a person who has this mutation, and it means that they can't use their vitamin Bs and their folic acid as effectively as us, and they can't detoxify as effectively as us. And we will see in just a moment how a lack of these particular vitamins causes anxiety, depression, bipolar disorders, etc. So this one here, this article from the National Institute of Health says anxiety and MTHFR and how it can be treated with methylated B vitamins. That's vitamins of the B group that have already been changed to their active form. So we prepare them in special capsules which are the active form, and especially with children with ADD and ADHD, that is life-changing. That is completely life-changing. Now, there's an article that talks about calcium deficiency, and underneath that it says niacin deficiency, and what it says is calcium deficiency causes depression and psychosis, niacin deficiency causes mental aberrations, confusion, depression, and paranoid reactions. Now, these words and everything that you see here comes from the Merck Manual. The Merck Manual is the doctor's Bible. It has all the prognosis of all the diseases, and it has all the prognosis, all the treatments and what to do, etc. So these are from a doctor's book, the Merck Manual. And here's one that talks about vitamin B12, and it says that even a slight deficiency of B12 can cause depression. And underneath it says there are recent studies focusing on an entirely reversible environmental factor known as folate deficiency. Yeah? Now, forgive me just for a moment. I'll put the charge on my laptop. As you remember, I was going to use my phone and not my laptop. And so if you give me 3 seconds, I'll put the little charge on. And I apologize for interrupting, but it's here.
Nana, still, like, you know, you can take your time, and I think the information you are providing us is really, really very important for all of us. Isn't it, Kim?
Absolutely, Sana. I just found out about this MTHFR about 3 years ago, because a very close friend of mine, actually, she used to be really tired all the time, and she'd sort of be okay, and I'd look at her and I'd say, my God, what's wrong with you? What's happening with you? Are you okay? What can I do to help you? And she explained to me that she just found out that she'd had this MTHFR gene, and it actually made her totally exhausted. And there were certain foods, and she'd eat this food, and it would almost like she'd just go comatose. She'd just be knocked out and want to sleep. And anyway, it's taken, you know, with the correct treatment that she's now having, she's seeing a naturopath and a doctor, so she's getting the correct treatment for this. But she said definitely just what John was saying. She used to feel anxious and depressed all the time, and she used to think that there was something wrong with her, and she had chronic fatigue. And it was just because she has this gene, this mutated gene. And as John said, 40% of the population have this. They have no idea they've got it. So if they can have this simple test and find out maybe if they are feeling anxious or depressed, very worthwhile, go and see John or go and see a naturopath or your doctor and say, listen, I want to get this test and just check out to see if I do have it. And then they can start going on the correct track. Sorry, John, we were just chatting while you were finding that.
Not at all. You said everything quite correctly. It's a simple test. It's a what they call a buccal swab, a little bit like the COVID-19 test, except
Test.
we don't put anything in people's noses. We just put a swab in their cheeks on either side, and we send it away. It's not very expensive, and it's really worth it because it's so easy for people to think, oh, well, I'm tired. Well, yeah, you are tired, but how about if you didn't have this, how much more energy would you have? And of course, there are other things as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the
Yeah.
MTHFR is a very common mutation.
Yeah,
So
glad
just
to
for
find
my
out.
viewers, John, I want to you to repeat the name of the test. So it's MTFHR test.
Let me say it this way. It's M for Mary, T for Tom, H for Harry, F for Fred,
Okay.
and R for Robert.
Yeah.
And it stands for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. So it's this enzyme called the reductase of the folic acid that doesn't work 100%, and you get this imbalance. So MTHFR is both a mutation and a disease. Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Thanks, John. Yeah. Now, the most important and most exciting part, I think, me and Kim, we both are excited. It's you and all other viewers as well. Because you have a wellness center, John. So we want that you share some weight loss tips.
Ah,
Tips
very good.
on, you know what we
Very
want
good.
tips on?
Very good.
Women.
I am an expert. All you have to do is look at what the camera cannot show, and you will understand. Look, it's interesting that you should ask about this, and it's a very good point because just for one moment, we should also talk about the role of the gut flora, the microbiome, the germs that we have in the gut, and what they contribute towards mental imbalance. And you might think that this is a little bit far-fetched, but it's not. Here is a book called Gut and Psychology Syndrome. And this book is done by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, who is a professor and understands what's going on in there. And it says here, you can't see it because it's very, very small writing in the brown part. It says, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, a natural treatment for autism, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, depression, schizophrenia, and so on. So what happens is this book is all about evidence that the germs that we have in the gut produce toxins and that these toxins affect the brain. Also, let's not forget that serotonin is manufactured in the gut. And so if we have an imbalance in the germs, then obviously we have a reduction in the serotonin level and therefore depression. So the reason I said that this works together with weight loss, you will understand when I tell you the following. So the body is designed to win. Whatever the body does, it does because it's trying to make you live as long as possible.
Okay.
So we eat the food that we eat and it goes to the stomach. In the stomach, acid comes out. This acid has to be neutralized. If it's not neutralized, then it travels down the intestine a long, long way and acid enters the body.
Okay.
Once acid enters the body, many, many bad things happen. Number one, your immune system goes down because acidity depresses the immune system. Number two, oxygen doesn't get delivered as completely with an acid blood as it does with a alkaline blood. And number three, the body tries to neutralize the acid by using majorly the bones. And so people who have a high acid value begin to lose bone. And people who have this are eventually headed towards osteopenia and osteoporosis. The brain that runs the intelligence of the body understands all this. And so it says, there's too much acid here. We have to find a place to put the acid so it doesn't cause too much bone loss, so it doesn't depress the immune system too much, so we can get oxygen delivered better. Where are we going to put the acid? Where are we going to put the acid? Let's make somebody fat, and then we can take the acid and put it in the fat. That accomplishes another thing as well. Not only does it reduce the acid in the body, but it also makes the bones stronger, because the heavier we are, the stronger our bones are. You know that when the astronauts go around the Earth, they lose bone mass. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to remove the reason. We need to remove the reason why the body makes you fat, why your brain makes you fat. Because what happens many, many times with people who are fat, they decide to lose weight. And so consciously, their will says, I want to lose weight. But subconsciously, the brain that runs the system says, you can't lose weight. If you lose weight, all the acid that's inside your fat is going to come out, your bones are going to dissolve, your immune system is going to go haywire. No, you will not lose weight, you will eat. And the hand grabs the muffin and puts it in the mouth, while the eyes are looking at the muffin and saying, hey, didn't you say you want to lose weight? What are you doing that for? And the intelligence that runs the body says, oh, you've been a good boy, you've been a good boy. You have the muffin today, and tomorrow you can die. And so we are fighting against the subconscious, which, as you know, is the bottom of the iceberg. So the iceberg is right up the top here, and the bottom is the huge part of the iceberg. And if the bottom wants to go this way, the top may say, I want to go this way, but it's not going to work. So what we have to do is we have to ensure that the acid from the stomach becomes quickly eliminated and neutralized in the intestine. How are we going for time? Are you ladies happy?
Sana?
Yes,
Hello?
yes.
Are we okay with time? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that the acid from, thanks, Kim, the acid from the stomach has to become eliminated quickly in the intestines. Quickly. Well, the way it gets eliminated in the intestines is the lactobacillus bugs, the good germs, make lactic acid. Lactic acid stimulates the intestine to make a hormone called secretin. Secretin runs around the bloodstream and enters the pancreas and causes the pancreas to pour out its carbonate and bicarbonate juices and kill the acid. Ta-da! No more acid. But if our gut bugs are not 100%, not only do we get mental effects, but we also get fat. Now, it's funny that the lactic acid is what makes you alkaline. The lactic acid is what neutralizes the hydrochloric acid that comes from the body. And that explains how come we all know that if you put a little bit of lemon in your water, it's alkalizing. Well, how can it be alkali? It's citric acid. Citric acid is acid. How can it be alkalizing? Well, that's how it can be alkalizing, by this mechanism. And so if we want to lose weight, we do three things. The first one is we take gut bugs in order to ensure that the acid coming out of the stomach is neutralized quickly and efficiently. Number two, we take a green powder, a detoxifying powder, a green powder that contains the goodness of alfalfa and Brussels sprouts and chlorella and wheatgrass and all the green things that are so detoxifying in the body. And we take a teaspoon in the morning and a teaspoon at night, because as the fat disappears, all the toxins and acids that are in the fat will be released in the body, and the body needs help to get rid of them. Otherwise, your brain will say, hey, 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 too much toxicity. Go get yourself a muffin and eat it. So the first one is we need good gut bugs to neutralize the acid. The second one is we need the alkalizing, detoxifying green powder. And the third one is we need to reduce the amount of food that we eat without allowing the brain to think that there is famine about. So if you normally eat 2,000 or 3,000 calories a day, and all of a sudden you start eating 500 calories a day, your brain will say, oh my God, there is famine, there is no food, we better conserve what we have, and it reduces your metabolic rate and you don't lose weight. And the way to fool the body into thinking that there is no famine around is to take supplements. Now, I know I sound like a used car dealer when I say you got to take supplements. I'm so sorry. But all the nutrition that you used to get from 3,000 calories, you got to get out of 500 calories. So believe me, you need a little bit of a vitamin every day. You need a little bit of trace minerals every day. Little things like that, which are not money down the drain and feeding the fish in Werribee. They are to provide your body with all the nutrition that it needs, so that the brain will say, oh, gee whiz, look at all the food that's around. We can allow the weight to go. And if you do these three things, you lose weight so easily, truly easily. Of course, you know, you don't eat muffins and you don't eat cream cakes and pasta and pizza, but all this is easy to do if your nutrition is high, your detoxification is high, and your acidity is low. Did I bore you to tears? I'm sorry.
No, that was absolutely brilliant, John. I love the way you explained that. Now, I just wanted to ask one question on that. So the good gut bugs, you're talking about probiotics. Is that what
Correct.
you're talking about there? Okay, you're talking
Correct.
about a probiotic. Okay.
Correct. Now, there are probiotics and probiotics and probiotics and probiotics.
Yeah.
There are probiotics that are 5 billion. There are probiotics that are 20, 30, 40 billion, which are the common probiotics. There is a one that is particularly amazing. It's 450 billion. But there is one that is way above everything else. It is 1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion. Now, I know enough to know that it doesn't mean that everybody needs acidophilus and doesn't need anything else. We certainly spend a lot of time making prescriptions, compounding prescriptions for people with very strange combinations of bugs that need to take special bugs. They may have to take Saccharomyces boulardii. They may have to take E. coli. They may have to take antibiotics to kill some of the very bad bugs. But at this stage, all we are saying is take lots and lots and lots and lots of acidophilus, lactobacillus acidophilus, and bifidobacteria, which are the bugs that, even though you may not need, you need in huge quantities to neutralize the gut and make you alkaline.
Wow. Okay, there we go, Sana.
That's really good, John. Thanks a lot for sharing all this in detail, and I think that's why I asked you if you can share something related to fat loss, and I think it's really good to know.
And of course, we have meal plans and vegetarian meal plans and vegan meal plans, and we have a huge Indian contingent. And as you know, 30-40% of them are vegetarian. So we have specific food aimed towards the Indian friends that we have, and so we can help everyone. The only thing that you need
Okay,
is you
that's
need
good
to
to know.
want to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, we can make it easy.
Yeah. And that
Okay, that's
sounds
fantastic.
really good, John.
We'll be
That
coming
you
to
got
see you
some
soon.
solution.
Dana and I will be on your doorstep, okay?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, John. I think it's really very informative, and plus there are so many things which you discuss, and that's quite a new concept for me as well. So thank you so much for your time and be with us in our mental health forum program. And once again, thanks to you, Kim.
Thanks for having us, Sana. I have a lot of fun here doing these programs with you, and we're having lots of interesting people come on, and John is definitely one of those very special people.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for having me. That's very nice. And thank you to the listeners. I hope I didn't waste anybody's time and that you got some value out of it.
Nana, we
Absolutely.
of course get so much information today, I think, which is really good for everyone and for all the viewers. So thanks once again to both of you. And again, as John said, it's time to look at the things which are really good for health, and that maybe help you to reduce weight. So till then, when you keep on trying to be healthy, keep watching and keep supporting A1 TV.